So before we go too much further, I thought we'd provide a bit of a level set in terms of how we've gotten to this point. And looking back on the last 20 years, you can start to see how digital marketing has evolved. And you can break it down into about six different eras. What I'm going to do is talk through what was happening at each one of those different eras and what was really stimulating some of these changes where marketers were focusing on different aspects of digital marketing. A lot of those changes may have happened based on technology, changes in consumer behavior, or some new platforms being embraced by mass audiences and marketers across Canada. The first era was really the web era. And if you worked in it, you would remember some of these logos that are across the bottom of the screen. And this was a time when everybody was starting to, in a very curious way, understand how they could use the web to be able to find information and to find different products and organizations that might be able to help them. And so at this point in time, a lot of Canadians were looking at the portals and search engines as a way to be able to find some of these different businesses that they might want to deal with. And from a marketing perspective, it was a time where really brochureware and print based mindset was being applied to a new medium. And so this was the time where a lot of marketers started to invest in things like their first generation sites, paying for advertising within directory listings on portals, and starting to adopt paid search campaigns to get visibility within search engine results pages. The next era is the data era. And at this point in time, we started to see direct marketing principles for the first time being applied to the web. And so a lot of marketers started to shift their attention to how do I communicate with the audiences that I want to communicate with beyond my web properties. And so it was a time where resources were shifted to build opt in databases, to start first generation email marketing programs, and starting to see the first iterations of e commerce and content targeting when marketers started to ask people to be able to register and log in to websites. So that's really the focus of the data era, being able to be a bit more targeted and direct for the first time through this new medium. The next era is the social era. And what ushered in this era was the mass adoption of social media platforms. And so many people were starting to create content, share content, curate content, and find out about brands and services and events that they're most interested in through their network of people that they follow through their social platforms. And so the focus for marketers was kind of bringing a PR mindset into this new medium for the first time. And that involved building out brand pages, starting to build the first iterations of content calendars, and starting to reach out through things like influencer marketing to try to build word of mouth and shape opinion about brands and products through the very public venue of social media for the first time. The next era was the mobile era, and what really ushered in this era was the mass adoption of not feature phones but smartphones. And so at this point in time, we started to see the app economy really booming with iPhones. And a lot of marketers started to ask themselves, well, what is the opportunity for me in building utilities and mobile apps that might engage the audiences that I want to engage through this new device and this new context of mobility and this very personal device that's always in the pocket or very nearby the people that I want to be able to reach. And so we started to see a bit more investment in things like mobile advertising, things like QR codes, and it was really a point in time where service design started to being applied to this new medium where marketers started to think about not just being in the face of a consumer with content, but what are some of the services that I might be able to provide through a mobile app that would be accessible through the people that I want to be able to serve. The next era was really around connecting data and APIs. And so if the previous era was really focused on individual services, individual mobile websites, individual apps that marketers might be investing in, the focus of a lot of marketers started to be around how do I connect the dots around some of the data that I might have, of different services that I might provide, of other services that partners may provide that are complementary to me. When you think about things like Google Maps being incorporated into apps and services. And so it became a time where marketers started to bring in kind of broader experience design thinking and principles into digital, but also beyond, looking at things like watches and connected devices that might be within car or within home. Which brings us into the era that we're currently in, the automation era. And what's happening within this era is there's a lot of more sophisticated data science, a lot more SaaS-based marketing suites that are enabling marketers to really do a lot more targeted marketing in an automated way at scale. And so we're really scratching the surface of what automation could provide to a lot of marketers in terms of optimizing media, of optimizing creative, or providing suggestions around things like search keywords or segments that we might want to target. And it remains to be seen what the impact of automation will be. I think a lot of organizations are trying to understand what the real promise of this is. What does that mean in terms of the tasks that I may want to automate, and what are the ones that I absolutely want to be able to keep my current team doing, and what does that mean in terms of processes and team structure to be able to offload some work to automation, but also hold on to smarter strategic work to be able to guide some of the decisions that these technical products are making for me within my marketing programs. So we've gone through about 20 years of digital marketing history in about 6 slides, and we've obviously seen a great amount of change in a very short period of time. But I think before we go into the next section, which will provide a little bit of perspective in terms of how we start to make sense of all of the different options available to us, you may want to just kind of pause here and think about how has digital impacted how you make your decisions as a customer? How do you find out about brands? How differently do you decide which company or products you're going to choose based on your use of digital over the last 10 years?